Well, it's a long time coming out here, but the strategy of this video, I really wanted to talk about different layers of screening. And deer hunting screening is so critical. And really, ultimately, there's a purpose for that screening. It's to keep deer from seeing us when we're hunting. Whatever we have to do to make that happen. Some areas we can add screening, and then we can keep a food plot. We can keep a bedding area. Some areas we can't add screening. Some areas we can actually manage and hunt with something short term, and then we can provide that long-term screening later. So I'm going to talk about it, two different spots here, what we're doing in each one and how they're a little bit different. Ultimately, it's to keep deer from seeing us when we're getting in and out for stand locations, access, and in some cases we're screening a lot of deer from each other. In fact, like on a lot of the inside edges on our food plots, we have 6 to 8 feet of switchgrass, cuttings, shrubs, where deer that are on the inside can't see out. That encourages them to bed closer because they can't see this big open gap. That's on the inside of food plots. It's a little bit different strategy. That's deer from deer. We're talking about deer from hunters and making sure you can have a great hunt by not spooking. This area, again, is a long time coming. This is where Jim lived. Neighbors around here called him the Hermit. We called him Jim because we actually got to know him. But he had a camper right here. He already took the camper, and all the junk that was here, this stuff has to go to a different dump right here, but all the legal stuff is in that roll-off right there. So that roll-off is full of all the trash that was right here. So we had to do this on another site just because the previous owners had it all over the place. So we had to do this with another site 2 years ago. So this right here, we're cleaning up. And Jim, I'll tell you, it wasn't like we got rid of him. It was he finally moved out. He was 65 years old. He'd never had Social Security. Someone told him if you didn't work in the last 2 years, you couldn't get it. He had no electricity, water, heat out here. So we were always worried about him. He's been out here for over 20 years, not in this spot, but different spots within a mile of here. And people looked after him, but not too many people. He even said one time, did I do anything wrong? And I said, no, we just don't want you to die out here. Within 2 weeks of him moving, he actually had a stroke. And had he been out here, he would have died. I was worried about Jen finding him. We looked after him during the winter time, sleeping bag for him at Christmas time so he could stay warmer, brought him groceries at different times. We cared about him, and that's why we wanted him somewhere else. And in that whole story took years. We gave him years notice, and then we extended that another year and a half, gave him other notices. I told him, I don't want you living on the street. We just want you to find a spot. Through all that, got a state ID, got a Social Security card, got Social Security income, and then he went to subsidized housing where he lives in a community of people and has his own place and can take a shower and a bath. He hadn't taken a shower in almost a year. When he was here, it was Christmas, and the next one was when he moved, middle of November. So pretty crazy. We're really happy to see him with clean clothes. He was at the house about a month ago, and it's almost like you don't recognize him. He looks like someone you just see on the street for his age. So pretty cool to see that, and interesting process. And so someone we care about is actually in a better place, and he likes it too, so that's a good thing. But cleaning up this area, we still have a lot of the little trash to put in the bin, but how do we screen it? You know, this is one of our main access routes right through here, and we have a great row of gray dogwood. A lot of gray dogwood in here. Very thick hedgerow, and these hedgerows, what we find on the property, we have this around a lot of our field edges. These are where those pheasants like to run during the winter time. We have the switchgrass out here. Switchgrass helps nesting, poult, chicks, rabbits, screens for deer. But if we get a really hard winter where you're getting several feet of snow over a couple months, it's really cold, you get wet snows, it smashes down that switch. The switch pops back up in the springtime, but that's just part of that screening. So we want different layers of screening, and we want to have a short-term, mid-term, and long-range solution. So in this case right here, we have our food plot created. We affectionately called it Jim's plot. So this is our Jim's plot food plot out here. We actually planted corn in it for the first year. It used to look like this. We mowed it all down with a brush hog. We've never tilled it, never disked it, never plowed it. We've used chemicals and no-till planting or just simple hand broadcasting. And it'll be half corn again this year, half greens. What we're doing is for our short-term solution. There's a big gap right here. It's about 80 feet wide, and it goes to about 80 feet. It's about 80 feet by 80 feet. This side right here, we're going to have about 12 feet of our what we call our deer fence through pure wildlife lens. That's a mixture that I came up with I've used for many years, but that's going to go on this inside here. We'll plant that more mid to late June, and that should get about 10 to 12 feet high. That'll be on this inside. Right here, we have red cedars, and that's from Yellow River Nursery. And we have red cedars that'll fill this gap right here. And those red cedars are already about 2 feet tall. They look really healthy, so we're sticking them in the ground. We just got rain, so it's kind of sticky out here right now. We're going to plant those at 5 by 5. A lot of times, if you get recommendations for conifers, they'll look at more 10-foot spacing, 12-foot or 15-foot spacing, and they'll say for wildlife. For example, we had some for the corners of our yard, and we put those more at 12 to 15 feet wide because we want them to grow big and bushy and fill up a lot of space over a long period of time. If I want screening though, I want to put those more at 4 by 4, 5 by 5, 6 by 6. And when it comes to red cedar, when they don't go horizontally really fast, I want to bunch them in. So we're going to be at that 4 by 4, 5 by 5 spacing. That'll take about 60 red cedar here. And then you step up to here and we'll have switchgrass. And you can see here, we've already burned this out all the way down that way, about 80 yards. That way about 40 yards, 50 yards. So we're at about 450 feet here, this whole length right here. We'll end up having about, say about right here, up and to where the side-by-side is in the roll-off. This will all be switch. So let's say about 20 feet wide, 15 feet wide. So we'll have that switch through here, the red cedar, and then the deer fence screening blend. Now the deer fence screening blend, that's a right now thing. We could actually use it next year too. However, by making sure that we burned out this area completely, and we're going to hit it again with chemical. We'll put simazine actually when we throw the seed down. So we're using a lot of chemicals heavy on the front side because then we don't have to touch it in the long term. And that's the whole goal. But at the same time, then we're getting 100% establishment. We're not going to have holes where there's weeds taking over and suppresses the switch or damages the switch. So we want to get a pure switchgrass stand. That means the switchgrass for next year is a viable option for screening off this side. Now this year happens to be our corn side where the corn will be on the opposite side. So imagine we have the HD screening, which is right now solution, switchgrass for 2 years, red cedars for 4 or 5 years down the road. So now we have those layers in place that we can establish screening for the long term and short term at the same time. And in 2 years, we're actually taking the corn that'll be down there on that side, moving it back up to this side. So we'll have switchgrass, 2-year-old cedar, corn, and then the green plot on the inside. So the switchgrass will be sufficient screening. There won't be corn for another 50 feet, and then the cedar will be in between. So that'll even further protect that green blend that's on the back. We have a really nice family tradition tower stand right over there we get into from the corner. And even over there, we have switchgrass clusters. We have big rock tree habitat diversity pockets and little clusters. We're filling in all the habitat over there with a big, huge outline layer of switchgrass. The whole idea is to fill in these gaps and give us that hard wall on the outside, which is the switchgrass. We're just putting the cedars in line with this gray dogwood, so we have escape cover for pheasants. They can run linear through here, a couple hundred yards overall. And that's what really keeps those pheasants alive. The cedar will provide really good winter cover for them too. And so a lot of things going on for habitat, but bottom line is we're screening hunters from deer. Let's just go take a quick look at the next spot. It's a little bit different. We have some shrubs that are already in 2 years of growth up past the bottom of the 10-foot redneck blind. So pretty cool. We want to show you those from big rock trees and a little bit of different strategy that's working on there for that short, midterm, and long-term screening, keeping deer hunters from deer. We'll be right back to the video, but I'm really excited to announce our 4th annual Camp Kicking Bear charity event. Every dime we raise goes to Kicking Bear. We have spots, Habitat Day spots. It's an all-day affair, starts at 10 o'clock on June 15th. But it's a Habitat Day. We provide lunch, breakfast, refreshments, plenty of time for questions. It's $200 per person. You can bring your kids. Kids are free. We had 43 kids last year. It's open to 60 people. We already have over half those spots taken. And then we also raffle off at that time. You can buy $100 raffle tickets for a hunt on our property. It takes place at the end of September. We host you. We love having you out. We have a great time with that. We made good friends with the 3 previous winners with that. It's been a lot of fun. Every dime, again, goes to Kicking Bear. We have a great time. Make sure to check it out in the link in the description. Now back to the video. We're just finishing up here, but really by location of this blind, we're already able to get into the blind. You can see we mowed a tunnel back here through all the briars and shrubs, and then we planted that in our traffic blend so it's really soft. We can mow it. It's 4 grasses, a clover, birchwood, trefoil, and vetch, so it's not really high, so that makes it really quiet when we sneak here. Then in the outside, we have switchgrass planted. This will be the 3rd year. It's been chemically controlled. We're going to let it go, and you can see how high it was last year. It was already in that 6-foot height. Even with some weeds thrown in. So we're doing pretty well with that. Getting to the back of the blind, there's shrubs out here in front that we use for existing. And then we have switch up against the food plot in the past, so up in the distance up there. So really a lot of layers for just getting in here pretty quickly. We also had corn down here in the end. So the first year we had corn, we had the switchgrass planted, the shrubs, tunneled access. We're really good getting in and out of this. I shot it, we call this the blade plot because I shot a really nice buck we called the blade buck back in 2020, so a while ago. We wanted to improve this though. We wanted to make sure that no deer could see us in these upper areas of the ladder getting up. Now it's filling in pretty good, but you can see I want this blind to blend it even better. So part of that is, of course, we want to height our approach. We want to have those multi-layered for short-term solution, mid-term, and long-term. And part of that, I wanted to make sure we had shrubs in here and enough cover around the blind. And you can see we have a lot of cover around here. Tyler, one of our hunt winners 2 years ago, actually shot a nice buck right down here over the water hole. So it's a bow setup. We really like that. That hasn't changed. We really want to hide this blind in better. And so Big Rock Trees came out and installed. These are hybrid willows right here. And then we have silky willow bushes on the outside, and you can see they just replaced a couple, but you can see in 2 years worth of growth the silky willows, now these are at that point where they're really going to brush out. But you can see the hybrid willows here, how this one is already up to just past the bottom of the blind, so we're at 10 feet already. And they told me based on experience that these hybrid willows will be above the blind by the end of this growing season. So that'd be 3 years of growth. They'll be 15 feet tall. You can see they have multi-stems that come out, usually 3. They'll bush, and what's really cool about that, then we can cut them away from the windows, and then they'll just grow up around. They'll grow out to the outside of the blind, and so this thing will be super covered up by the time we get in. You can imagine these silky willows right here, they get 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall, and 10 to 12 feet wide. So those willows are going to get up into the bottom of the blind, and truly that's what we like. We like to see that blind sticking on the top of the brush. Now when we go way out in the blade plot out here and you look back, that blind is barely above where we can get shooting lines. But when you get in here closer, we really want this to not only hide in, but to be able to be accessed without ever spooking a deer. So when we have these multiple layers, again, that's what it's all about. We want that short-term solution. We try to figure it out best we can. We might even give up a little. But the bottom line is we never want to spook deer off that food plot out there, no matter what we do. And so we're going to be at a point where even if there's a deer at the water hole here, we'll be able to get up and down this ladder without spooking them even at 25 yards unless we make a noise. So that's the whole idea. Just hunt quiet, be completely hidden. And I hope it makes sense. We have multiple layers out here for screening. And what's really cool about all this, just close with this, incredible wildlife habitat. When you have pheasant, they don't need 1 acre blocks of cover. They need 1 acre length. So when we have 1 acre here stretched out over 500 yards and we have that width, then they can just run. Pheasants that fly die. So the ones that will run, their chicks can have that for summertime and for getting large enough to escape predators. And then we have all these shrub components here where during the winter, even if the switch gets smashed down midwinter with a heavy, like last year it didn't, it was standing all winter long. But now we have all the shrub growth for all those pheasants, turkeys, rabbits, deer, whatever to live in. And so it's a really good combination. We're actually screening ourselves, and we talk about that too much sometimes. We're just screening for deer. We call it deer screening, or whatever you led you to this video and see the title about deer hunting. When really in the end, most of the things we do for deer are very, very encompassing for all forms of wildlife. And we like to focus on all of that wildlife here, and our screening projects and strategies certainly encompass a lot more than just deer, but it's going to help us have a great hunt this fall. It's Monday, and that means big shipment time for seeds. We have a lot of orders over the weekend, and Daryl in New York, he bought a lot of seed. In fact, a lot of this pallet is his. We've shipped to 48 states so far. We haven't shipped any to Alaska and Hawaii, but Daryl, we have some extra goodies coming your way. We appreciate it. We'll try to do that every week too. So we really thank you guys. This is that time of year. We have lots of seed going out the door. Wes is working hard behind me, getting that out, and we try to get that out the next day after your order.